This is Titletown Sound.
If Joe Flacco is worth a fourth-round pick, Antonio Brown might be worth a negative fifth-round pick.
Again, I'm just a fat dude sitting on the couch, but I watch a lot of football.
I'm here to kick ass and make steaks, and I'm all out of steaks.
Year one, he was like, all right, guys, I don't know what Dom taught you, but you need to have 11 guys on the field.
A trained orangutan could have done a better job than Ron Zerks. I mean, not even well trained.
Welcome, Packers fans, to the Titletown Sound podcast. This is episode 223 of this delightful program, and this is the show for fans of the Green Bay Packers and fans of hard candy. And now, a man who is like a bit o' honey. Sweet, old, and no one wants him on Halloween. It's James Korsmo.
To be fair, nobody wants me on any holiday or any other non-holiday or anything else either.
Ed, my other co-host, a man who is like that Werther's original at the bottom of your grandmother's purse, Kevin Christofko. I'm not sure what that means, but how you doing, Kevin?
It's like not really a hard candy anymore. It's like a soft chew, even though it shouldn't be.
And it tastes vaguely of like old lipstick just because it's in the same environment so much.
There's lint. You picked lint out of your teeth.
Oh, God. Gentlemen, we are Packers fans for an 11-3 team. Did you think that we would get to the point where this Green Bay Packers team would be 11-3? James Korsmo.
I forget what my prediction was at the beginning of the season. I want to say it was 10-6 or 11, and maybe it was 11-5. But
right there.
This is incredible. And I think I tweeted this earlier this week that most people had them at going 8-8, 9-7 for the season. And
sure.
So, I mean, honestly, anything after this, we're playing with house money now,
And Kevin, if they had gone 9-7, even 8-8, with a new head coach after the season they had last year, this year would have been a success. You don't have to admit that, but I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how you do within the division. But yeah, I mean, record-wise, it would have been a step up. But I think that I think last year the Packers were bad, and that's why they lost a lot of games, right? Like they were in games, but they were just bad, and so they lost those games. This year, the defense is holding on the final drive, and they're winning those games, and the offense is scoring a touchdown when they need to, and they're winning the games. And so I think that's what you see when the team gets less bad. That makes sense, and gets a little gooder, I would say.
When
I like that word.
Gets less bad and gets a little gooder, they win more games, is what you're saying.
Well, in fairness to me, everything I said up to that was pretty good, and then I kind of lost where I was. But you get the idea, so.
You did. All right, so let's talk about this Packers-Bears game. This, the 200th meeting of this rivalry. And we've talked about it, James. This Packers team has come back from quite a distance. You shared this tweet with us in our chat that we run all week and for years. This is from PackersHistory.com. They tweeted this. This is astounding. In 1992, the Chicago Bears were 81-57-6 all time against the Green Bay Packers. That's dominant. 1992. 81-57-6. And today, a mere several years later, I didn't do the math, the Packers are up 99-95-6. Since 1992, they've made up that many games. James, that's an incredible streak since 1992. The Green Bay Packers under Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, 40-15 against the monsters of the Midway.
Pretty incredible, man. That's it. Look, I don't know if there's some stat nerd that's going to check me on this and be like, this is not how time and space works. But it took the Bears, 60 years, 70 years to get that big of an advantage on the Packers. Yep. And the Packers wiped it out. Gone. in 20 years.
27 years, James Hamlin tells us. He's a math professor, so I'm going to believe him.
And he does not sound like that either. I've heard him talk. It's incredible. And we really only have one guy to thank. And his name is Jay Cutler. Thank you, Jay.
He was a big part of that. Jay Cutler definitely helped with that deficit or the
Love you forever, my friend.
I miss him, although I think Mitch Trubisky, if he sticks around, is a wonderful gift.
He's filling in nicely.
He is. He's picking up the slack. We're smoking.
He's filled his shoes nicely. Yeah.
All right, so James, we talked about how excited we are that this team is 11-3 and how they've overperformed this year, but let's talk about an offense this weekend against the Bears that did not overperform and quite frankly was pretty damn terrible. The Packers offense under Rodgers and LaFleur, once they were off script, once they were done with those scripted plays, what happened?
I don't know why this is such a surprise at this point. Like the team started out the first 4 or 5 games this exact same. Remember the week 1 we scored 10.
Oh yeah.
The next week it was like they scored 13. It was like, oh, okay, we're getting there. Week 3 it was like 20. Oh my God. This is what happens in these type of divisional games against rivals that have you scouted and for years. Even LaFleur's game plan isn't, like a solar system away from what McCarthy was doing. They have kind of the beat on what the Packers like to do. Plus, I don't know if you've noticed, the Bears defense is really good. So I mean, it's one of those things where LaFleur, when he gets off script, I don't know what goes through his head. I don't know why he decides to put Aaron Jones away or he does what he does. It's really frustrating at times. Save for 4 or 5 drives, I think the whole game was kind of bad. But
I mean, Aaron Rodgers was under 50% completion percentage. This was a bad performance.
You know what though? Let's talk about that for a sec, because what was he? He was 15 for 32 or something like that.
Well, you're close to 33. So basically,
for 204, if I remember right, for 204 yards.
He was 16 for 33 for 203. You were off by 1 on every statistic you gave.
That's the story of my life. Now imagine this, if you will. Let's go to an imaginary place. Imagine on the first play of the game, MVS hauls in that dime.
Oh, yes. Okay, let's stop there because I could talk for about 20 minutes on this play. I meant it when I tweeted or wrote in our Facebook group. I would have cut him at that point. Like I would have just told him, go to the locker room. You will not see the turf again, because he's shown me at least twice blatantly that he doesn't have wide receiver instincts. He just alligator armed that. That was a perfectly thrown ball. Yep. And I forget who it was. The commentator said, you scout teams like this, and when you see a big play shot on first down of the game, it means you saw something that you knew you could exploit. Well, guess what? They were right. They saw something they could exploit. They had the play. A touchdown should have been on the board, and MVS, like his wrists were cut off, and his hand was fused to his damn elbow the way he was playing. And he's done that before, where he's in the back of the end zone, he catches the ball, and he gets like 0 feet in somehow.
But I digress. Everything you said, everything you said is I back up 1,000%. But just imagine for a minute, he hauls that in, opening the game. What is it? 65-yard, 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're looking at 17 of 33 for 275 yards. You can live with that, right? Like that's not okay. And then you factor in Geronimo Allison dropping a pass on that same drive. And then you factor in Devontae Adams dropping a pass later on. And then, it just kind of snowballed.
You also have to factor in the dropped interception then.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's true.
If we're factoring in.
That's true. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. But then that would have made all the people that want Aaron Rodgers to throw interceptions happy, though.
Todd in the chat says, why didn't they try that play again in the second half with Kumaro? And my guess would be it's something that works once because they saw something they could exploit and the Bears fixed it. I mean, I would imagine it was something that they saw that was just a glaring issue in the secondary that eventually was repaired, the Bears covered for later in the game.
The Bears defense is way too good, I think, to take that shot twice. Although, why the hell not try? When you're going 3 and out back to back to back to back, why not just try it? See what happens.
And so this is what gets me again frustrated about this receiving core. And spoiler, Papa K is going to mention this later in his call, but this is a thought that we've talked about earlier in the week as well. Why doesn't this receiving core look like this? Devontae Adams is your number one. Alan Lazard is your number two, and Jake Kumro is your number three, and Geronimo Allison is your number four, and MVS, getting Gatorade for the guys who are actually playing the game. Kevin, why aren't they doing this?
I mean, I said it was a blocking thing last week, and you poo-pooed it. I don't know. I would say maybe because
in that case, instead of putting MVS on the field, put a sixth offensive lineman on the field, because he has as much a chance of catching a damn ball as Alligator Arms does.
Can I be devil's advocate here?
I guess.
I
you horny. Sorry, the worst. I apologize.
I would take MVS and Geronimo in your scenario, and I'd flip flop them. Because for this, MVS is fast and he can blow the top off, the secondary when you need to. Geronimo Allison is not any of those things. He's terrible.
I'm just angry with MVS right now. We have like personal issues at this point, but I get you. No, I think you're right.
Like I don't, and I also think there's a chance for MVS to redeem himself. I think I do. I'm really down on him now, but Geronimo, this is year 3, 4.
Yeah,
he is what he is at this point. He's slow and he only catches about half the balls that come to him. But
can block.
Can he though? I don't know if that's true.
I want to talk briefly about the man who should be our number 2, because
Najee Davenport.
What? Because I have
our hearts forever.
I have a sound clip that I would like to play for our audience. I had to share it with you guys a little early, but here it is.
This is Alan Lazard, aka the Lizard King, and you're listening to Titletown Sound Off Podcast. Go Pack, go!
It's amazing what $30 an internet connection can get you.
See, I usually go a different way with $30 an internet connection. But...
Me too, but in this case, we got Alan Lazard to call himself the Lizard King and welcome you to the Titletown Sound Podcast. That I don't know. Again, I guess the problem that I have this week, especially, was the way that receivers were targeted. So if you look at the receptions, 13 targets for Devontae Adams, 4 for the next most targeted receiver, which was Geronimo Allison. Lazard gets 3. Everybody else gets 1 or 2, except for Jimmy Graham, who gets 4 targets. This is, I don't get it. And I don't know who this is on. I suspect it's on Aaron Rodgers quite a bit, but why aren't they distributing the football like they have been? We've got one.
Why aren't they distributing the football like when Devontae Adams was injured?
Yeah, but we got one target to a running back in this game.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's inexcusable. I don't understand. And I laughed at those who said this team was better without Devontae Adams. They played better on offense. But what's more frustrating for me is that's something that's eminently fixable. You can fix this. You can choose to distribute the ball. You're just not doing it. And I don't get it.
Yeah, to me, I think you hit the biggest nail on the head when you said that the running backs only had 1 target. I'm okay with Devontae Adams getting more targets than anybody else. I am not okay with running backs only getting 1 target. That's terrible. And that should just not happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's just – you have Aaron Jones, who is just out of this world when it comes to receptions out of the backfield, and you just stow him away. And that just really irritates me.
So Chris Sealaff in the chat asks, talk about all gas, no brakes, but the Packers keep letting teams come back towards the end. Thoughts? I'm going to give you a statistic from this last game that's going to make your head explode. Let's talk about total offensive plays. Okay?
Yeah.
Total offensive plays. The Green Bay Packers had 58 total offensive plays. The Chicago Bears, 83 offensive. I've never seen a number that big.
Wow. That's incredible.
That's it's mind-boggling. It bottles your mind.
Like bottles it in like a genie.
Exactly. But seriously, 83. Unless this is a typo on the NFL's game book, that's an absurd number of offensive plays. So, Kevin, I guess my point is part of the reason teams are coming back is you try playing 83 downs as a defense. I mean,
yeah. I mean, and also I think one thing to keep in mind is that this league really is designed for the last 2 minutes of the game. I mean, it's really getting down to the point where so many games are decided in the last minute or so. Even games where it's like 14-14 with a minute 40 left, and then they score 36 points with a minute 15 left. It gets a little bit ridiculous sometimes. So the fact that they're able to hold them in that situation, I mean, I think that says something for the defense. I don't think that I think that we get caught up sometimes in like some of the numbers, and we don't look at the actual like what happened throughout the course of the game. They stop them when they need to, fourth down stops.
I think there's been a lot of garbage time in some of these games, and like you have to account for that too. Like, the Bears realistically would have needed a small miracle to come back and win that game.
Right.
That whole last drive was garbage time yards, and that's when they're in prevent defense, and that's why I don't look at total yardage as a measuring stick of how good the defense is.
I'm not going to call that garbage time because they're one score away. But I get what you're saying. You're going to give up yards because you also know they got to score and get a 2-point conversion or a 3-point conversion to win.
But like, didn't the Packers all 3-point conversion? Well, it's a safe back. Yeah, it's a safe back's cousin. But didn't the Packers had the ball with like $1:45 left and couldn't get a first down and gave it back to him with 44 seconds or something like that. So like, that's not really on the defense, right? Like, we're not really talking about those yards at the end of the game if they just get a first down and end the game.
Right. And I guess that's what I think we're both saying. It's a lot of this on the offense. Let's look at third down efficiency, which is really usually a good measure as to who won the game. The Bears, 45% on third down. That's a pretty good clip. The Packers, 5 for 15, 33% on third down. And that tells you the story of the offense, in a pretty succinct way. This Packers offense just performed really poorly, and the defense was excellent. The Bears were 0 for 3 on fourth down. That's a big number. That's important.
Packer-esque.
It is Packer-esque. And, so the Bears get 415 net yards, but it certainly didn't feel like that. And I think I saw comments. I should stay off of Facebook and Twitter. I don't know. I'm going to have to sign up for TikTok or something because there's woof. There's form of social media where the fans aren't terrible, because I saw a lot of comments that the defense was the problem. And I wanted to find out, like, do an IP search, find where these people live. I don't know. It's technological. Show up and kick them in the face. Because if you watched that game, like with your eyeballs, or listened on the radio, or discussed it with someone who had seen the game
and had express consent from the NFL,
there's no way that you could have come away intelligently thinking that problem was the defense. I just don't get it. James, where the hell does that come from?
Stupid people. There's no other way around it. Look, we have a problem in this fan base, and I know what's in other fan bases too. I get that. We have a problem with stupid people, and in the Packers fan base, as in society as a whole, I think today, stupid people are the loudest and they get the most attention. And none of the things they're just all inane and they don't make any sense. And it's just people that think they have an opinion, but all they really have is a need for attention. That's all it is.
Are you talking about me, James? This is getting a little personal.
I mean, I wasn't going to say it, but have you seen Kevin's Twitter lately? Oh, no, you haven't.
Special teams play pretty well. We're returning kicks and punts now. Like, this is an actual thing that's happening.
It reminds me of my daughter's basketball league, where every week they add a new rule. They must have just added returning kicks and punts last week for the Packers in practice.
Is that really how they do it? They add a new rule? Like,
yeah, it's really funny. It's really cute, actually.
That's how they did it with my kids, too, when they were young.
So what rule, like, what do they start with? Like, just like, here's
out
a ball.
Of bounds. Like, the base, like they like out of bounds. Was
So
the first
I hope, as a competitive father, you taught your daughter to hack the crap out of the other girls.
They
until-
highly discourage hacking. They will blow the whistle at hacking, but it's incredibly tough, James. I'm sure you know as a parent sitting in the stands, it's incredibly tough because like she's looking at me like waving, and I'm like, just watch the game, like participate at some point.
This is why I coach all my kids' teams so that I can yell at them and look constructive.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not good enough to coach. So,
But anyway, I forget what we were talking about.
Basketball, I think.
Aaron Ripkowski's abs.
Well, that's what I was thinking about. Special teams actually performing well, and I just don't understand how this like they flipped a switch. Like this wasn't something that they built up to. It was like they were literally getting 0 return yards, and then they were like, "All right, we'll get 15 or 20 in a clip." Was it just James? Was it just a bad return man until now?
I think that was a big part of it. I think Swervin' Irvin, as he's called. It's so weird.
That's amazing.
So
is that real? That's funny.
When you watch him return a kick or a punt, the biggest thing that I could say about him is he's decisive. He makes up his mind that he's going to return it, where he's going to return it, and if it's not there, then he gives up. It's not like the other returners that we've had all year that just run into their own guy and then fall down.
And it's not really fair to call them returners since they didn't, return.
Right. Yardage losers.
They were sometimes catchers. Oh, let's talk about how the Packers got lucky on special teams, and that was wasn't this the kick catch interference call when Tramon Williams for some reason decided not to fair catch a ball when he had a bear French kissing him as the ball landed in his arms? Like
I French kissed a bear once.
I mean, Tramon. Come on now.
Yeah, Tramon, you're 62 years old. You're too old for that.
You have life experience, man. And I understand Bears fans being pissed at that. I would be too, but I don't care. I just don't care. But yeah, that was a terrible call. So that game should have been. Well, what drive was that on?
It was like on their third. It was the first quarter.
So it should have been. Packers should have been up anyway because that MVS catch should have happened, and then the Bears should have recovered the Tramon Williams fumble. So in an alternate universe, this game was like 41-32. It was. I don't know how you get 32. I think that's difficult, but that's what it ended up as.
4 touchdowns and 2 safeties.
4 touchdowns and 2 safeties. Let's see. Anything else about this game that we should talk about, James?
I'm already tired of hearing the words "ugly win." We started hearing that this week a little bit more. Ugly wins are still wins. There's an ugly win, but we'll take it. And a win, a win is like a newborn baby, right? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Sometimes it is ugly. But you cannot tell the parents that. It is beautiful.
So who are the parents in this analogy?
The owners, us owners of the Packers.
Okay.
And the fans, Lil Wayne.
What's the amniotic fluid?
Gatorade.
That makes sense, actually. That was a good answer. I wasn't expecting.
That was quick. That was really good. Let's see. We don't have any.
Feel good about that.
All right. So before we go, let me say about ugly wins. I think it was an ugly win. I think a lot of them have been ugly wins, and I just don't care because don't tell the parents, drink your Gatorade, and it's still a win. And if they can continue ugly winning through the playoffs, I don't care if they beat San Francisco 2-0.
Nope.
2-0. Or San Francisco gets a late rouge and it's 2-1. I'm fine with that. As long as we win, like really, I don't care. I don't care if Aaron Rodgers is 1 for 33. If that one pass is a touchdown and they win the game 7-0, I don't care.
I actually kind of want that to happen now. Like, I think that would be great because A, we win the game, and B, Twitter would be a freaking cesspool of nightmares and horror.
133 for 98 yards.
And it has to go to MVS just because.
He catches it just like this with his elbows tucked into his body.
he holds his jersey open and lets it fall in.
It accidentally goes in the neck hole.
Just kangaroo that thing.
Anyway, I don't care if they're ugly wins, and some of them have been, but whatever. All right. Before we go to break, we have some Hall of Fame, actually OG patrons that we should talk about. And those are important people that help us out. And if you want to help us out, you can go to patreon.com/TTSO. And for a small or large per episode donation, you will financially support the show and let us buy new stuff. And that's it, really.
Equipment.
And help us out. Equipment, right. So, Kevin.
Not just like stuff. Like sports cars and stuff.
Well, right. Well, we've already got at least.
Oh, please let me buy a sports car.
This podcast.
Look at me. I wouldn't fit in a sports car.
I said sports bar.
Oh, I thought you said sports car. I wouldn't fit in a sports bar either at this point.
You are our OGs.
All right. Our OGs. We have Jason Hicks, Scott Neer, James Hamblin, Milo Meadsong, Chris Not Christofko or James Korsmo, and Jeff Augustine. So these 6 patrons aren't just Packer fans. They're also compassionate people, always looking to lend a hand to those in need. This past weekend, when Mitch Trubisky needed to close his muffler shop to play in the game, our OG patrons stepped up and ran Mitch's mufflers for him so he could play without his business suffering. Scott and Jason were in charge of the oil changes. Milo and Chris rotated the tires. Jeff ran the front desk while James was in the office. It says here, fluxing the capacitor. I don't know what that means. But,
how many gigawatts?
I don't. Fluxing the capacitor, you say. All right. Thanks to all of our OG patrons and all of those who are patrons on the site. If you want to help, if you want to do it too, you can. Easy. That's all I got.
That's all, folks.
That's all. All right. Close the show down. All right. We're going to be back in about 2 minutes. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the upcoming Vikings game, the most important game of this season for the Green Bay Packers. And we'll talk about, what teams probably concern you the most as we go into the playoffs, because the Packers did, if you didn't hear, clinch a playoff spot this week. We've got David Bakhtiari's 69 of the week coming up. We know everybody's excited about that. Find out if there was a natural this week. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Packers fans. Kevin, you're in the middle of the screen now. I don't know how that happened. Welcome back to episode 223 of the Titletown Sound podcast. James, I won't forget this week.
That's good.
Before we go on to the Vikings game, we got to talk about our other Hall of Fame patrons, important people to the show. Who are they?
Okay, so we have 5 of them. We have Paul Goldsack, Kyle Turpening, Nick, not John Glenn, DJ Lightfoot and Will Zine Savage, or Zin Savage, or Zine Savage.
Definitely not that.
I don't think it's that, though. So I just found out yesterday, actually. I was Wikipediaing burger chains because that's what I do. And did you know that these 5 guys invented 5 guys? Paul Goldsack came up with the idea of smushing the meat. He loves he's a big meat smusher, that Paul Goldsack. Kyle Turpinning invented tomatoes. Bet you didn't know that. Nick, not John Glenn, makes his own mayonnaise. We're not going to ask how.
Oh boy.
Eggs and oil.
And vinegar.
Eggs and oil. That's all it is. DJ Lightfoot. He came up with the idea to put 7 gallons of French fries in the bag when you order a small, which is actually breaking the fourth wall here. That's my favorite part of Five Guys. And Will Zine Savage. He makes his own bacon, and he sometimes uses pigs.
So thank you to all of our Hall of Fame patrons. We really appreciate it. Thank you to all of our patrons. All right, so let's talk about this upcoming game against the Vikings Monday night. I don't think it's an overstatement to say this is the most important game of the season for the Green Bay Packers. If they win this game, in all likelihood, James, they end up with at least the number 2 seed in the NFC. They get a bye, they get a home game, and they will only have to potentially go on the road for one game, or not, or possibly not. You know, if San Francisco or whoever is in that, Seattle is in that number 1 spot, happens to lose, the Packers end up with home games throughout the playoffs if they keep winning.
Yeah, this is a big one. It's a big one. I mean, there's a lot. There's the division. I mean, they've on the line. There's a possible number 1 seed on the line, and keeping their number 2 seed. I want this. Like, I'm not even going to lie about this, guys. I want this one. I want it bad, which is why I think they're going to lose, because I've seen this before. The Packers have never won in the Stapler.
Right.
I want that to change. That needs to change. The division is on the line. That needs to be wrapped up, and I want to buy, and I want a home game. I want this one, and I'm not being very, good with words right now.
Words good.
Because the thought of winning this game, it makes me so happy. But I'm really worried about it because this seems like a classic setup to a letdown to me.
Well, and it's also this is a tough game. You're going on the road. You're going to be playing a good team. And it's Monday night, but again, that's where the Packers have the advantage, as Kirk Cousins is 0 for 8 on Monday night football games. The man can't play on Monday night. He's like Trubisky can't throw to his left. He can't play after 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. So that's the one. That's the one thing we got going for us.
Don't feed him after midnight.
Well, no. But now, who did you see the injury report, James, for today?
I sure did.
And his name is currently escaping me, of course, because of course it is.
Dalvin Cook?
Thank you. Dalvin Cook
Kitchen
is not going to be, most likely, Schefter is reporting he's probably not going to be playing this weekend. And that's a huge deal. For this Packers-Vikings game. If he's out, James, that changes the game a little bit.
It does. And there's actually a fair to midland chance that his backup's not going to play either. So, I mean, they could be down to their 3rd-string running back, which would be huge. And, I mean, not that the Packers could take that lightly because Minnesota's a good running team, I think, regardless.
Sure.
But if they don't have to worry about Dalvin Cook and they can focus their attention on Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs and the big dopey tight end whose name escapes me now because I'm half drunk.
Is this Rudolph?
Rudolph and his red nose, yes.
He's probably gonna have a big game.
Well, all tight ends seem to against the Packers, so.
But they're gonna say like a million times, "Oh, he's getting ready for Christmas." It's gonna be really annoying. I feel like that's gonna be annoying.
So, by the way, it is Star Wars weekend, and I'll minimize our pictures here. Except I don't think you can hear us now because I didn't mute our audio. I actually took us out of the script. So let me try this again. I will mute our audio and show this picture, but or mute our video. This is something that somebody posted. It's Star Wars weekend. The new Star Wars movie came out, and what bank is this stupid stadium named after?
U.S. Bank.
U.S. Bank Stadium looks a lot like that thing that the Jawas drive. I'm not sure what that's called. It's like a giant.
That's a U.S. Bankmobile.
So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you're seeing this riveting photo that I posted. Yeah, that was worth it.
Episode title. Yeah, that was worth it.
I would tell our viewing audience that the Bucks just won, but I believe I'm prohibited without the express written permission of the commissioner of basketball, so I won't do that.
You may have seen me glancing up for about 99.7% of this podcast because I have it on.
So what do we have to be on the lookout for in this Viking game? Like, what do the Packers need to do to win? And the answer is not score more points, although that is true. What's the biggest concern for this Packers team, you think?
I think we need to stop them from scoring more points.
I like that.
You should have said James so that I wouldn't have said anything. Yeah, there's your problem.
I want to hear what Kevin. What tell us?
What? Okay, so the Packers have to limit big plays, right? They can't allow the big plays. The Vikings destroyed them on big plays the first time they met.
Oh, they did.
And I think they also need to be able to convert on first downs. You know, their third down conversions need to be a lot better than they've been because they need to hold the ball. They can't have 30 less plays than the Vikings. And they also can't get behind the 8 ball on the first play by fumbling it 44 yards backward onto the 2-yard line and having it recovered by the opposing team.
Oh, I forgot all about that. God dang it.
Not ideal. I think the key is for the Packers offense to perform. And that doesn't mean for them to be, 2011 levels of greatness. It means they need to spread the ball around. They need to get Allen Lazard involved more. They need to get the running backs involved in the passing game. And they need to, they cannot be on the field 30 less plays than the Vikings offense, or they will lose this game.
They need to be more efficient and not force things. I feel like the efficiency needs to get a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. And I think not forcing things is a really big part of that. And I think we can blame number 12 for a lot of that. I do think he tries to force things through Devontae Adams, and who can blame him? The guy's great, but they got to work. They've got to work on that.
I mean, to be fair, and you know me, you guys know me. I will defend Aaron Rodgers until the day one of us dies. Hopefully me first. But when you have Jimmy Graham running 10 yards at 1 yard a minute, and you don't have anybody getting open, or they're getting open at the wrong time because the whole offense is predicated on timing routes. You're going to go to the guy you're most comfortable with, and it's Devontae.
Chris asks in the chat, do you think Jace Sternberger will develop this season?
Like football or boobs?
I hope boobs.
But I don't think they haven't given enough chance to develop. I don't know how you can develop when we're not getting snaps.
He's good. Jimmy Graham needs to be gone for him to develop fully, though, because he won't get playing time with Jimmy Graham's here.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so let's talk about the look ahead a little bit. Look past the Vikings to the playoffs. In the playoffs in the NFC, you had San Francisco lose to who did they lose to this weekend? The Falcons?
Atlanta Falcons, and
a pretty wretched team. They lose to the Falcons, and now the Packers do have a shot at the number 1 seed, except they need a lot to happen. They need Seattle and San Francisco both to lose one game. Essentially, that's the scenario, because both those teams hold the tiebreaker over the Packers. But it looks like the number 2 seed is theirs if they can beat the Vikings. But what teams concern you in the NFC in the playoffs? We can eliminate the NFC East. None of those teams scare me. Despite the fact the Packers managed to lose to the Eagles, it feels like the NFC East is just wholly regressing as the season goes on.
They're bad.
I made the comment that I didn't want Seattle to have the 1 seed because I don't like going to Seattle, and you convinced me otherwise, James. You disagreed.
Matchup wise, I feel much more comfortable against Seattle than I do against San Francisco, and that might be just because of how bad we got our asses kicked earlier this year. But Seattle hasn't changed. Their offense hasn't changed. Their defense hasn't changed since forever. And we showed them in 2014. We should have won that game. God bless it. And we've beaten them, I think, 3 out of the last 4 times we played them since then. So I would rather play Seattle than I would San Francisco, because I think San Francisco's defense really is it's a bad deal for us.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Kevin. Which teams concern you in the NFC?
I mean, in the NFC, all the teams in the NFC concern me, to be honest with you, because I think they're all pretty good in their own way. I mean, obviously the East is not doesn't necessarily fall under that headline. But that being said, if Ezekiel Elliott makes it into the playoffs, it only takes 1 game in the playoffs. So I think for the Packers, I think a home game would be nice. But in terms of opponents, honestly, whoever the opponent's going to be, it's going to be. I don't think anything's a done deal. And especially even if it is the East, I don't think it's a done deal.
Well, and I think you want to get as many home games as possible. So I heard people making that comment again, like, I don't even want the 2 seed because I don't want to bye. And I know the Packers have come out flat against after the bye, and even this year during the regular season. But I think it's important to have fewer games in the playoffs, especially with the new head coach. Give him 2 weeks to prepare. That's something I think people are overlooking. Give a rookie head coach 2 weeks to prepare. Now, I understand you don't know who your opponent's going to be, but you can pretty much narrow it down to 2. You can start preparing for those teams. So I think that's an important factor that maybe people are forgetting, James, that you get that bye and you get LaFleur 2 weeks to get ready for that first playoff game.
Yeah, I think that's huge. That's huge. It's a big advantage for the Packers. And if it is San Francisco, then you know what? We already played them once, and then you get an extra week to prepare for them. Staying healthy is big, and playing a team that's that's played a game already. I think I am a little scared of it because just how flat we came out against San Francisco after our bye this year. But like you said, fresh legs, man.
Kev, you gonna say something?
I mean, I was, but it probably wasn't going to be very insightful. So,
all right, that's fair. I like that you're self-aware now. It took you 223 episodes, but finally self-aware. All right, we've got our next feature, one of our favorites. We've gotten a lot of fan mail about this. We don't get any fan mail, but here's David Bakhtiari's 69 of the week.
69, dudes!
Nice.
69!
Nice.
All right, gentlemen, this week, if you add the Packers' longest punt of 43 yards to the Bears' longest kick return of 26 yards, you get 69.
Dude.
And unfortunately, no natural again. So that means the jackpot rolls over to next week. We hope that we have a natural 69.
do you think we'll get a natural this season?
I mean, I'm shocked that it hasn't happened yet because I look at every stat possible. I even look at some things that aren't probably even stats, and I have not come up with a natural 69 yet. But I believe we will. And maybe this is the week.
Maybe.
All right. What do we got next? We got some voicemails. We got a few callers who called in. Nobody with a wrong phone number this month or this week. Everybody seemed to want to call. Our first caller did not give a name, but it was a pretty good call, so I decided to play it anyway.
Hey guys, just calling after the Packers just beat the Bears up 11-3. It was a tough game, but when is a division game ever not close? I just think that the third quarter was so impressive. It was great to see the adjustments that were made and see, the Packers go back-to-back touchdown drives. I think, and it was just really great and fun to watch. Not really sure what happened in the fourth quarter. The defense went to that prevent and the offense just wasn't clicking. But man, that Dean Lowry interception was just so much fun to watch. Really hoping that the offense can go back to that all gas, no break mentality that we said we'd have. Just hoping it keeps going, and glad to be 11-3. Hoping that we can put it on the Vikings next week. Go Pack, go!
Well, I think the problem, Kevin, was that they might have been all gas, no brakes. It's just that like gas was like leaking out of the vehicle. It wasn't effective. I mean, I don't think the offense was conservative. I just think it was bad this week.
Yeah, they just didn't execute when they needed to,
Right.
and it made it. Yeah, I mean that's the inefficiency, all that jazz. As I shift my camera around, sorry.
Yeah, that's it. Our next call is from Eli. Voicemail from Eli.
Hey, this is Eli calling after the Packers just defeated the Bears, sweeping for the series. Just wanted to say, as I was driving home, didn't get to watch the game, but I'm driving home and I got to hear someone talk about the Browns and how they want to commit to Freddie Kitchens. And the guy was kind of pointing out how that seems like an odd choice based on the fact that the Browns have underperformed with a stacked, quote unquote, stacked roster. And it made me think, despite how insecure I felt about the Packers at times this season, with a rookie coach and a team that certainly lacks elite talent at the wide receiver position and is dependent on free agents on the defense, you can't be anything but pleased with where this team is right now. And I'm just so grateful that they are where they are, and look forward to, trying to make some magic happen in the playoffs. Thanks.
What a great point that we were all concerned or we didn't know what we wanted at head coach. And I think we take for granted how well LaFleur has performed in his first year, that you have a team that's 11-3. Like, guys, that doesn't happen. You don't inherit a losing record and turn a team around. And I mean, I think unless you're a novelty, like remember, I think Chip Kelly had a ridiculous season after the Eagles were terrible, but that didn't last. LaFleur doesn't appear to be that kind of novelty. He seems like he has really turned this team around. And again, I think we've all said it. If you could have, if you were asked if you would take this team at 11-3 at this point in the season, no matter how they looked when they won, Kevin, you'd take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would.
And we were so nervous about this team, and look how easy it is to make a terrible head coaching decision. The Browns seem to have made, James, a wretched decision. And now what do? You go with the same guy after you. I mean, they've changed head coaches more often than most people change underpants. I don't know. I mean, that's yearly.
That took a lot longer to get there than I thought it would.
Well, because I was debating in my mind, like really most people change their underpants at least daily. So that's not a genuine.
Right.
I suppose. They don't go through 365 coaches a year.
Kevin apparently just now realizing underpants should be changed more often than they are. You're missing out if you're not watching on video. But James, think about where a team like the Browns is with their head coaching decision and where the Packers are. And,
it's crazy. And I think as good as LaFleur has been, and he has been really good. I mean, he's had his moments that were kind of head scratchers, but he's been good. I think a huge, huge portion of the success of the season goes to Brian Gutekunst.
Oh, yeah.
And Russ Ball. Just the fact that they, Gutekunst drafted last year, he got Gary, he got Savage, Elton Jenkins, who was the steal of the draft.
And he is just unheralded, Elton Jenkins.
Oh, yeah. He is an all-pro.
John.
Well, he's a tiny dancer.
Hold me closer,
But just the draft that he had, and then going out and getting, Adrian Amos and the Smith brothers, and I mean the commitment to the running backs, and it's just you don't see it a lot in the NFL anymore, and you certainly as a Packers fan you haven't seen anything like this. When's the last time you saw the Packers go out and get 5 free agents and then draft well mostly? It's so Gutekunst really, he's had a hell of a year, and
hold that thought. We're going to talk about that a little bit more when we listen to Papa K's call. So let's go now to our last voicemail, which is Gabe.
Hey, y'all. Gabe here, calling after the heart attack of a win right there against those damn Bears, 21-13. And my thoughts on the game are, hey, we got the win. I mean, it was, oh my gosh, I was having a cow. I got the guy motorcycle next to me though. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, there's a lot to be worked on with this team. I mean, defense was stepping it up there, and then of course things kind of started trickling off over there. But hey, we're 11-3, so can't complain about that. That's all I have for this evening, for this game, and just wanted to say good night. God bless. The Bears still suck, and go Pack, go.
Gabe and his left blinker calling in. We appreciate it, Gabe.
That was happy Gabe, man.
It was. We did a well check on Gabe a few weeks ago after that call. We were a little concerned, but everything seems to be good. We got happy Gabe. And what I want to know is, does he make a legitimate left turn? It is not the authentic left blinker, because the right blinker probably sounds the same, but I believe that Gabe would be authentic. I don't know about you guys.
Oh yeah.
Well, the left is a natural click.
Sure.
Like it's an easier motion too.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. All right, let's go to Papa K, because I think he does have some really good points on talking about when we talk about Gutekunst and we talk about what could have been if Packers fans had their way, who would have been in the front office.
Hi, this is Bill Christofko calling while enjoying the Packers' 11-3 record and current number 2 seeding in the NFC. Couple of random thoughts here. A couple of remember whens. Number 1, remember when some Packer fans wanted Brian Gutekunst to do whatever was necessary to trade for Khalil Mack? Well, how about Khalil Mack against Brian Bulaga this past Sunday? Bulaga had 36 pass blocking attempts against Mack, according to Pro Football Focus. Mack got exactly 0 pressures on Brian Bulaga in that game. The only time that Mack pressured Rodgers was when he was unblocked and was on the side away from Bulaga. That's really impressive. And we have to remember, of course, that one of Brian Gutekunst's big decisions this offseason is going to be what to do with the 30-year-old Brian Bulaga. He may have a fairly serious history of injuries, but the man has been really good this year. He stayed healthy. So that's going to be a difficult decision. Brian Bulaga playing at a really top level this year. A second remember when there were a number of Packer fans, a fairly large number of Packer fans, who wanted Elliott Wolf to be the successor to Ted Thompson rather than Brian Gutekunst. And how some were disappointed, and off went Wolf to Cleveland. So how's that working out? John Dorsey and Elliott Wolf drafted a franchise quarterback who's not a franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield. They traded for a superstar who's not a superstar anymore in OBJ. They have a coach who may be one of the worst in the league and who has some of the least control over his team and over his players in Mr. Kitchens. I watched the first game of the season against Tennessee. I think the Browns had something like 15 penalties in their first game, and nothing has changed. They're still the undisciplined bunch of guys milling around, losing games. And how about the players supposedly calling to the Arizona Cardinals, of all people, to come and get them out of Cleveland? Naturally, Jarvis Landry denied it, but I'm glad that the Packers have Brian Gutekunst, and I'm glad that they didn't trade all those draft picks for Khalil Mack. Mack is a good player, but he's not worth all ended up trading for him. And by the way, in the same game, David Bakhtiari gave up one pressure in 36 snaps. That is really great tackle play against what is supposed to be one of the better defensive lines in the NFL. One additional remember when so many questions were raised when Matt LaFleur was picked as the coach of the Packers. 11-3 later, we have to admit that something good is going on in Green Bay. We'll have to see where this team finishes, but something good is happening in Green Bay. Now, something even better that would happen would be if we could see more Jake Kumerow and Alan Lazard, and maybe a little less Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Geronimo Allison. The drop passes are really an issue, and the Packers need more than Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams to make this offense work as we get closer to the playoffs and into the playoffs. So it's on to Minnesota and a huge game Monday night against the Vikings. Maybe Dalvin Cook won't play because of his shoulder injuries. We'll have to see. But it should be a big one, and if the Packers can win that and beat the Lions, they can have at least the number 2 seed. Who would have thought at the start of the year that after 14 weeks of games, we'd be talking about the Packers maybe getting the number 2 seed in the NFC? Thanks for listening. Good night.
And the number 1 seed, not out of the question, though certainly unlikely. But James and Kevin, Papa K raises a good point. A lot of Packers fans wanted not only Elliott Wolf, but wanted John Dorsey as this next GM. And we talked about it before, how Dorsey was not all he was cracked up to be. And that would have been a huge mistake, it looks like.
I'm ashamed of myself because up until Papa K just said that, I had forgotten that I wanted Elliott Wolf, and I was pretty adamant about it. And boy, what a fecal show it is out on there in Cleveland. It's no bueno.
Fecal show, you think?
That makes it sound like something you want to attend. I'm going to the 8:00 fecal show.
I couldn't say what I wanted to say because this is not a patron episode.
I think we're going to have to title the episode Fecal Show now. I'm pretty sure we're kind of obligated. All right. Great call from Papa K. I completely agree. We don't often, we're not reflective enough, and we don't look back and say, wow, what could have been, and what we wanted as fans is so often very wrong. But man, it looks like this front office made the right choices. Mark Murphy made the right choice. Brian Gutekunst made the right choice. Kev?
Yeah, I was going to say, Khalil Mack, I'm going to go for it, guys. He had less pressure than a Mark Chimera hot tub party.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Well, it's already been said. You can't disallow it.
I mean, yeah.
It's not false, guys. It's not false.
Speaking of false, you know what it's time for, Kev?
True or false?
True or false, true or false, true or false, true or false. It's time to play true or false.
All right, Kev, what do you got?
All right. True or false for week, what's this, 15?
Yes.
Holy moly.
No. 16.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Week 16.
All right. Whatever. Okay. James, we're going to start with you because Chris is making me look bad in terms of math. All right. So in the first matchup of the season against the Vikings, the Packers came out firing, scoring 21 unanswered points en route to a 21-16 victory. True or false, in this week's matchup, either the Packers or the Vikings will score more than 14 unanswered points at any time during the game. So will either team score more than 14 unanswered points?
True.
Ooh, and you're pessimistic, so That
Guess
means
who I think? Yeah, guess who I think is going to get that 14?
I'm going to say false. And James, I don't like your pessimism. Anyway,
I just look. I can't help it. It's just my name. I'm Catholic.
I'm going to say true, but I'm going to say it's the Packers. They're going to score going into halftime and then coming out of halftime. That's going to be 14, and then they'll get a field goal or something.
Oh, damn it! I never thought of that. That's good.
All right, question number 2, Chris.
So actually, if we want to look back on the first game, it happened twice in the first game.
It was 21 and then 16.
Right. The Packers scored.
Yeah, it happened twice. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
All right. Okay, Chris, we'll go with you because you're so smart. In the first matchup against the Vikings, you're going to notice a theme in how I start all my questions this week. Both touchdowns came on plays of 45 yards or more. True or false? The Vikings will score a touchdown of 30 yards or more this week against the Packers.
30 yards. I'm going to say false just because of odds.
James, what are you going to say because of odds?
because of evens. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm not feeling optimistic, so I'm gonna say true.
All right, I'm gonna say false because Dalvin Cook's not playing. I think they'll have they're gonna have a touchdown of 29 yards, but that's it. Question number 3. I'm gonna start with me this time in a change of pace.
Ooh. Mixing it up.
In the first matchup against the Vikings, Kirk Cousins threw 2 interceptions and was sacked once. Aaron Rodgers was sacked twice and threw 0 interceptions. True or false? This week, Aaron Rodgers will have less combined sacks and interceptions than Kirk Cousins. So when you add up how many times you get sacked and how many interceptions you throw, Aaron Rodgers will have less than Kirk Cousins. I'm going to say true. James, what do you think? What are you going to say?
I'm going to say true for that.
Make it a triple.
A triple true. Trip's true. All right. Chris, we're going to go question number 4 is going to be for you. In the first matchup against the Vikings, Devontae Adams had 100-plus yards receiving, and Aaron Jones had 100-plus yards rushing. True or false? Against the Vikings this week, the Packers will again have a 100-yard rusher and a 100-yard receiver.
I'm going to say false because I just haven't seen the offense do that. I mean, it's not on the road. That's tough. Yeah.
James, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. If we were at Lambeau, I would say true, but no, not there. False.
I'm going to say false as well, but I think it's a good thing for the offense. I think that they'll spread the ball around. Nobody's going to have 100 yards because there's a bunch of guys having like 40, 50, 60 yards. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be a bad thing. And question number 5. Chris, in the first matchup against the Vikings, J.K. Scott had a 59-yard punt. I'm going to let that sink in for a second.
Those were the days.
True or false? Indoors in the bird-killing stadium, Scott will have a boot of at least 47 yards.
His long last week was 43. You got to think the warm weather and the dome get him an extra 4 yards. I'll say true.
James, what do you think?
I want to say false, but I'm going to say true because I believe in J.K. Scott.
And I'm going to say false because I don't think he's going to hit it that far, but I'm going to say it's because the Packers aren't going to punt. The Packers won't punt at all. That's what I'll say on air, but really I don't think he's going to do it.
All right, fair enough.
Ever since he hit puberty, guys.
True or false is now over.
So wait, what you're saying is J.K. Scott hit puberty mid-season.
That screwed him up. Yes, that's exactly my theory. Yep.
Well, let's play our last game of the evening, and that is Spread 'em.
Go on ahead and spread them.
All right. So the spread currently is
Minnesota -4.
Minnesota.
That's on that we send out.
Minnesota's favored by.
Yeah, every week. 4.
Yeah, I know, but I don't look at it every week. So
well, I mean, it's
you should know that by now.
It's a document with an audience of 3. You're one of those three.
Well, two, I think, really. At this point.
Oh, now.
Yeah, it's an audience of two. See,
Anyway,
James understands. He gets it. All right. So, Chris, the Vikings are favored by 4 points after my extensive research. Who do you expect to win this game in the spread industry?
I am going to predict, as I do every week, that this is the week the Packers blow out their opponent. And I will again, Scott Neer style, take the Packers to cover.
James, what about you?
And I will, again, stick with my strategy of always picking against the Packers because I am terrible luck. So I'm picking Minnesota.
And I am going my strategy of putting no effort or thought into my answer, and I'm going to pick the Packers.
Okay.
So that's it. So now you can play the sound effects.
Oh, wait. There's no more sound effects.
Oh, I thought there was a song to end it again. Oh, no, that's right. That's only...
I can play this.
This is Alan Lazard, a.k.a. the Lizard King, and you're listening to Titletown Sound Off Podcast. Go, Pack, go.
He has such a smooth voice, man.
He does. And I believe he recorded that in bed, which makes it just that much more erotic.
Yeah.
I'm Alan Lazard, and I'm not wearing any pants.
I think it's probably time to wrap this up as we start talking about the eroticism of players. Before we get out of here, Kevin, anything that you would like to add?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Kevin, I'm glad you're courageous enough to say Merry Christmas with, the war on Christmas and everything that's going on.
Yeah.
James, what do you got?
Chemical warfare.
I'm trying to vamp. I'm trying to vamp for like 45 more seconds because at that point, this podcast will have gone David Bakhtiari amount of minutes.
Not
a natural show.
That would be a natural 69.
We're actually at 67 minutes right now.
Okay, fine. If you've made it 67 minutes into this podcast, first of all, I want to tell you all, just like Kevin, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate and you don't celebrate, whatever. I hope it's happy for you. Tweet us the word. Let's go with Yule log.
Oh my God, that's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like we're one, James.
I was going to say camel mistletoe, so I guess I'm not.
It's my favorite brand of cigarettes.
Hashtag Yule log. By the way, I saw, speaking of Yule logs, not that I have a log, not the way you thought. I saw Christmas Vacation in the theater this week, and it was amazing. Better in the theater. So I guess that's it. I feel like we're about 10 minutes shorter than our shows have been recently. I feel like I have to apologize for that, but we're still 7-8 minutes old.
Something tells me nobody's going to be offended.
I mean, and also no one's listened this far, so we're good.
Thank you,
everybody. We will see you next week when the Packers are 12-3, one step closer to the 2 seed. And go Pack, go! 12-3, beat the Vikings. Kirk Cousins sucks. Thank you, Mitch Trubisky. Later.
The preceding podcast was a production of Productions Institute, LLC. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved. Don't steal our crap.